Okay, guys, we are live. We are live. We're live. We are live. Some breaking news, breaking important news. And that is that it's basically official. It's been official for the last half an hour. CAS have given their decision, and the decision is that Manchester City basically escape this Champions League ban. The Champions League ban has been overruled by UEFA, and instead it'll actually basically be reduced to a 10 million fine. In fact the original fine was a lot heavier, but it's only going to be 10 million. 10 million. So frankly, it's pretty, which is pretty much nothing for Manchester City, frankly. So 10 million is what, that's a sixth of one of their new fullbacks they're going to purchase. So thanks. I'm Old Man G here. If you're new to the channel, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to Red Devil Studio. Follow us on Twitter, United X, and smash that notification button for the latest Manchester United news. So yeah, so you're going breaking with this. I'm going to just quickly just sort of go through the article, just to sort of give everyone an idea of what's sort of going on. Just give me 2 seconds. 2 seconds, guys. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Two Red Devils. Yeah. Okay. 2 seconds. Right. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. So let's just quickly go over the BBC News article, and I'll actually read specifically in the CAS report so that people can kind of understand what's going on. So obviously, just for people who don't know, the background of this whole thing is that in about, when was it? It was probably about February, I think, time. Probably even earlier, probably January. UEFA basically decided to ban Manchester City from the Champions League due to their failure to cooperate with the investigative process, and also to disclose, or they basically felt that they were hiding, not disclosing the full amount that they're getting from sponsors, so which is essentially fraud, effectively. And that ban was in place. And then obviously Manchester City appealed to the Court of Arbitration, getting clearly the best lawyers in the land and probably the best money in the land to represent them. And basically that's here we are. So let me just quickly just sort of go through this kind of this story for a second. So Manchester City have successfully overturned their 2-year ban from European club competitions. The Court of Arbitration of Sport has announced the club was cleared of disguising, this is the key here, disguising equity funds as sponsorship contributions. So this was the big thing. This was the big thing here, really. The whole not cooperating with UEFA or whatever was a minor. The big thing really was this sort of issue of potential fraud in potentially disguising equity funds as sponsorship contributions. So it's basically sort of saying that their money, in layman's terms, was for sponsorship sort of contributions. UEFA issued a ban in February, as I said, after ruling City had committed serious breaches of financial fair play between 2012 and 2016. City's fine has been cut from 30 million euros to 10 million euros. They're basically off the hook here. And delivering the ruling, CAS said City did fail to cooperate with UEFA authorities, but overturned the decision by UEFA's club financial control body, which is CFCCB, to ban them. City said the decision was validation of the club's position and the body of evidence that was able to present. The club wishes to thank the panel members for their diligence and the due process that they administered. This is City's statement. CAS ruling means City, who are guaranteed to finish second in Premier League season, will play in the 2021 Champions League. In this year's competition, Pep Guardiola faced Real Madrid. Yeah, of course, we know that, leader 2-1. The CAS statement continued. The award emphasized that most of the alleged breaches reported by the Judiciary Chamber of the FSB were either not established or time barred. So basically, a lot of these obviously claims came from I think it was the Don Spiegel leaked report, which basically sort of said, that they basically just sort of messed up, basically, or leaked anyway, that they'd messed up anyway. Sorry, two seconds. I'm still going. I am live. Just have a quick look. Sorry, yeah. Again, by the way, if you let me know what you think about this whole thing, guys. Just let me know. Okay. Sorry, it's morning time, so I'm still awake, not awake. Yeah. The chasm continues. The word emphasized. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Sorry. As the charges with respect to any dishonest concealment of equity funding were clearly more significant violations than obstructing the CFC expiation, which is true, it was not appropriate to impose a ban on participating in UEFA's club competition with Man City's failure to cooperate with the CFCB investigations alone. And this is the key thing here, really, is that the big thing that people can get is that, like, I think one of the reasons why UEFA went at City so much for this whole sorts of situation was the fact that they weren't actually cooperating with UEFA's investigations, maybe because they felt either because they had something to hide or still do, or because they felt that they were being unfairly scrutinized. So they then say on reducing the fine, CAS said that while it considered the importance of the cooperation of clubs in investigation conducted by CFC and Man City's disregard of such principle and its obstruction of investigations, the CAS panel considered it appropriate to reduce UEFA's initial fine by 2/3. They added the final award of resolution will be published on the CAS website in a few days. I mean, I've obviously read the statements that obviously CAS put out, and yeah, man, it's a gas. It's a gas, really. It really is. It's what can I say about this here, really? This at the end of the day, it should always be innocence until proven guilty. And my thoughts on this are that that UEFA themselves as an organization are also quite corrupt. So in a way, this is almost like a bit of, how can I put it, a bit of justice in a sense to UEFA, because frankly, UEFA, FIFA, they are sort of got Raymond Moore shouted, "This is not fair." We're going to get to that. This is almost a kick up to them, because frankly, for years, for decades, UEFA and certainly FIFA have been very corrupt organizations. So I don't really, I'm going to put this, have any empathy for UEFA, because it was clear that they had an agenda towards Manchester City. But I think that this does kind of bring, FFP, UEFA into quite a degree of dispute. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Before I tweet this out, I'm going to tweet some of this stuff out. Your comments coming in, guys. UEFA. No, I mean it's not ideal. It's really not ideal. Share that out. Okay. Right. Sorry, guys. Somebody must have bribed City. Someone must have been bribed by City. Well, we don't know. We don't know. Possibly, you never know. But this is what I'm saying about the UEFA, is that UEFA are not immune to corruption themselves. So it's all money thing at the end of the day, But the ban wouldn't have been imposed if the evidence was this inconclusive to begin with, wouldn't it? The time frame was old. Doesn't mean it's a felony, is it? So time frame was old. So I don't quite understand your comment. The time frame was old doesn't mean it does. So it doesn't mean it isn't a felony. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, exactly. This is the thing. So why so obviously at the start of this sort of whole thing was that the big thing in this case was sort of decide. And I'll kind of scroll up to the news article here. The big thing was where are we? Where is it? Where's the line? Yes, here. The courts of arbitration will announce the club was cleared of disguising equity funds and sponsorship contributions. That was the big thing. The big thing. It wasn't so much that they were failing to cooperate with UEFA, because they clearly were, being obstructive. At least that's what the court suggested. But the big thing here really was City disguising equity funds, which is basically, I mean, I'm using simple terms, I guess, in their money, as sponsorship contributions, because by doing that, they were basically able to circumvent FFP. The court apparently found that that wasn't the case, and whether that's because the claims weren't established, because remember, all of this stuff was getting leaked by Der Spiegel. So possibly they're looking at the Spiegel thing and going, well, it wasn't really like, oh, people brought up a mountain of evidence against Manchester City. It was more, oh, you know, here's a nice newspaper article. You know what I mean? But also, in terms of the time period, so clearly, like some of these things that they were claiming happened, you know, ages upon ages ago. What does this mean? Like I said, I think that just put this. Sorry, must forgive me. I literally have just gotten up, so I'm a bit. Right. Okay. I'm back. Thanks so much for watching. Okay. So yeah, let's get back. So essentially what I'm trying to say is, so I'm giving my direct attention now. So I've just tweeted at things out. So make sure you share and like the vid, by the way, guys, share and like the vid. But I guess what I want to really discuss now really is what the implications are for UEFA, for FFP, for the Premier League, you know, etc. You know, what actually are the implications of this whole result? Because obviously, I mean, as a Manchester United fan, I think there were a lot of fans, not just Manchester United fans, but fans in general, who were thinking, right, okay, if City get banned for 2 years, you know, then one, it means that City are going to be essentially weaker as a club, you know, so they're going to, Pep might leave, all these players might leave, you know, it's going to be, you know, the league might get a bit easier. There's not any competition, and more importantly, from actual, you know, relevant sort of thing to the league now would be obviously the availability of fifth place being a Champions League spot for someone who finishes in fifth. Now we know that's not the case anymore now, you know, so as now, given recent events beforehand, I might have taken it, if I'm honest, but given recent events, frankly, Manchester United should be getting top four quite comfortably, you know. So if I was you know, if I was freaking like a Chelsea or Wolves, well, certainly Chelsea or Leicester for that matter, I would be concerned more so now. Remember, none of this matters because we're aiming for top three now. Let's go United. Exactly. You know, exactly. Obviously, this is Manchester United fan channel, you know. So although I don't want to say Manchester United fan because I do cover a lot of other stuff on other teams' football if I feel like it's relevant to the club and the league, etc. I felt this is relevant to Manchester United and just the Premier League in general because it's breaking news. And like I said, for me, to be honest, I would actually if the fifth place thing had kind of been installed, I would have actually felt quite bad. But just getting in there fifth because of this situation. But we know we ride. And it means that, you know, Manchester City are going to be even more determined, I would say now for next season, and obviously for the Champions League season as well. What's the point from another team in the battle the spot fifth place? And I'm not sure what you mean by that, Eddie Matrix. Do you mean what's the point in other teams battling for fifth place? Or, I mean, obviously, right at this point now, it doesn't really matter anymore, frankly, because, you know, they've got it. You know, it doesn't really matter anymore, you know. So because the ban thing's been overturned, so. You know, fifth place is now irrelevant. Really, it's basically now Europa League. You know, so you know if I'm Chelsea or Leicester, I don't think you could say Wolves or Sheffield, especially Sheffield, because obviously they've overperformed this season. But I certainly think Wolves and Leicester. I think now you're going to be looking at, because I think they might have been thinking, especially with form. Okay, well at least we might have that to land on. They're not in the Europa League, so they can't have that opportunity. So really, if I'm Chelsea and Leicester, I'm thinking, right, okay, we need to sort of crack on here, because if we don't crack on here, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna be ideal for anybody, like, at all. But yeah, like I said, guys, I just think that, so the effect obviously in the Premier League, I think the big thing obviously with this whole thing is that, like, it only makes a mockery of FFP, and I think that sorry about that, guys. There was some connection problems there. My internet is just really, really buggery, so I apologize for that. This won't be particularly long, so I'll wrap it up in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. But apologies about that. This stupid connection. My internet is it's supposed to be really fast, and yet it just bugs out, man. Anyway, I'm not going to ramble. Long story and short of it, City obviously are banned. Implications on the Premier League, I think, are significant, because I think that, it kind of does show it. Ultimately, it just ultimately shows that, like, money, or the amount of money you spend, like, is irrelevant. FFP is irrelevant, and that's irrelevant in the Premier League. So effectively, if you're going to compete, at this point, it solidifies the fact that you're effectively going to need a country, a government, a state, multi-billionaires, in order to back you. Much like Sheffield United, because people forget that they're owned by the Saudis. Yeah, that's the thing. And certainly from an initial thing, if I was Chelsea or Leicester, I'd be quite scared. Now, what does this mean for UEFA and FFP as a whole? Well, I think UEFA right now have egg on their faces. I think they've got a massive egg on their faces right now. I think that if I'm UEFA, man, I'm thinking, one, I don't even really have any real control or say, or no, I won't say control or say, but I would say that they don't, UEFA are the head of the European football, basically, in this competition. They are. And the fact that they were basically slapped down by a club like Manchester City kind of shows who's in charge. So frankly, I just don't think that people are really going to take FFP, other clubs can take FFP seriously, really. Especially if they can just go and appeal to CAS and get it overrun. Although, of course, they would have taken some financial, backing to do that. But, the other thing as well you could also argue is that, like, clearly from this situation, there's going to be some animosity between UEFA and Manchester that's going to boil over. And you do wonder whether behind the scenes, whether that's in draws or whether that's in refereeing decisions, or whether there'll be some sort of subtle backlash, I would think, that Man City might get from UEFA competitions, which obviously City should be aware of. So, I think in the long story and short of it, and I'll wrap up this now, like, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We really don't, and I just think that ultimately this whole thing makes a mockery of FFP. Really, at the end of the day, it does. Because there's no doubt in my mind that when Manchester City were bought by the Qataris, the organization, that they spent a lot more in that period. When I think 2000 and when did they buy it? 2011, I think it might have been 2011, 2012, or something. I've got no doubt in my period that the money that they were spending, certainly from at least 2012 to 2014, at least from those periods, that money was being spent, okay, and that money was not coming from the money that the club itself was generating. Okay, it wasn't getting it from sponsors. It wasn't getting it from, because Man City were nowhere near as big a club as everyone else. When you're spending 50 million, etc., on these players, that I'm sorry, that wasn't coming from. So I've got no doubt in my mind that they were breaching FFP, but because obviously it's the evidence is the ways is concrete or not able to establish it. Of course, guys were able to spot it aside. So the evidence was inconclusive, and you can't judge someone for inconclusive evidence. So they get off scot-free. Anyway, let me know what you think, guys. What are your thoughts on this? Like I said, as a United fan, it makes no difference to me. We beat them 3 times this season anyway, FFP or no FFP, and hopefully we'll get top 3rd. But if I'm other clubs, I'm probably getting a bit concerned right now. Have a nice day, guys. Make sure that you like the vid, comment below. Take care, everybody, and cheers.